In today's video, I want to share with you a few hacks and tips that I've learned over the years on how to instantly elevate your aquascapes. But before we get there, if you're new to the channel, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your support. In this video, I'll be using this UNS 3N as an example canvas to show you these tips and hacks, but you can use all these tips and hacks in any size tank that you want. It's not just limited to a little nano tank like this. That being said, the first tip that I have to instantly elevate your aquascapes is to add a vinyl background on the back of the tank. When you have an aquascape that you can see right through to the wall to, in my personal opinion, I feel like it takes away from the impact of the tank. If you have a vinyl background on the tank, it allows the viewer to focus on the plants and the hardscape and what's actually inside the tank, rather than looking directly through it at your wall. Now, there are a ton of different vinyls or backgrounds on the market in the aquarium hobby. You can have just a simple stick-on vinyl like I've got here in either white, black, gray, or whatever color you want. Or you can go as fancy as getting an LED aquarium background, which is controlled by a remote and can be set to whatever color you want depending on your mood. Now, when it comes to picking the right vinyl for you, it really boils down to your personal taste. I personally like the stick-on vinyl, but if that's not your thing, then that's okay. I'll leave the link in the description below for the vinyl that I use, as well as a link for my favorite LED background that I would recommend. Another way to elevate your aquascape immediately is to slope your substrate when you're building your tank. Creating a slope in your substrate will immediately give it a very natural sense of depth to your aquascape. Now, if you want the substrate to be flat in your tank, that's totally fine. There are plenty of award-winning aquascapes where the substrate was completely flat and they just went all out on the hardscape and plants. So that's totally fine as well. But in my personal opinion, adding that slope of substrate will instantly create depth that's just very difficult to replicate otherwise. Also, by adding a slope in your substrate, it'll help you achieve more height in the back of your tank and fill out the whole aquascape as a whole. So adding a background to your tank is one way to level up your aquascape. Another is to slope your substrate to create that depth. Now let's get into my third tip. Now, when you slope your substrate, you are gonna find out pretty quickly that your substrate will want to fall back down to the front. And this is just simply because of gravity. Without something in the substrate to keep it in place, it'll naturally want to fall forward. Now, there's two ways to avoid this. The first way is to just simply put your hardscape in and let those pieces of hardscape act as anchors within your substrate. Or if you're going for a very light hardscape design and still want to have that sloped substrate, so maybe like a Dutch style aquascape, there's a simple trick that the folks over at Boost Plant taught me a couple weeks back, and now I want to share it with you guys. So the trick is to take a tissue culture cup, just like this one. If they're plastic, that's fine, but if you have the more flexible tissue culture cup, that would be preferred. Either way works. The hard plastic is just going to be a little bit more difficult to actually achieve this with. But what you're gonna wanna do is take one of these tissue culture cups, and you're gonna grab a pair of scissors and some safety glasses, and then cut it into little tiny pieces like this. And when you have these pieces like this, then you're gonna simply take them and push them down into the substrate layer and bury it. And then that will help hold that substrate in place and not let it slide forward. Now you want to remember not to put too many of these pieces in the substrate because you are still going to have to plant. So just put enough in there to hold it in one spot, then call it good. All right, now on to tip number 4. Now tip number 4 is something that's preached throughout the aquarium hobby all the time by every aquascaper you'll ever meet. And that's to plant heavy from the beginning of your tank's life. If you plant heavy in the beginning, this will help you avoid algae. You're still going to get algae, but it won't be nearly as bad as if you don't have enough plants to outcompete that algae. Now, as we know, algae thrives off of excess nutrients. So if you plant heavy from the beginning, all those plants are gonna take up all the nutrients and there's gonna be nothing for that algae to thrive on. Now, obviously, if you don't have the budget to plant heavy, that's totally fine. I'm not telling you to go take out a loan for plants. Please don't do that. But just look at your budget and determine how much of that can actually go to plants. And remember, it's always good to plant heavy in the beginning because it will help fight that algae and instantly elevate your tank by giving it that full grown-in look right from the beginning. So plant heavy from the beginning, and that way your tank will look more mature and healthier from the start than it would if you planted with hardly any plants. Now, a quick little bonus tip that I'll give you regarding planting heavy. One thing you can do is to just maximize the amount of plants that you have. If you buy a tissue culture cup, a lot of people will only plant large chunks and they'll get maybe 4 to 5 planted chunks out of each tissue culture cup. Instead of doing that, get out a cookie sheet and just fill it with as small of chunks of plants as possible. By maximizing the amount of plants that you have, it'll help you to plant heavy in the beginning. All right, now this final tip is aimed primarily at those who already have an existing aquascape and they just want to elevate it just that little bit more. The thing you're going to want to do is grab a quality light. Now, I know this means spending more money, but trust me, when it comes to aquarium lights, the quality of the light, you get what you pay for. And if you pay for a good quality light, it's going to reflect that in your aquascape. The plants are gonna look more vibrant, they're gonna grow quicker and be healthier, and it's just gonna give a nice, sleek look to your aquascape. And because you know just as much as I do that I can't leave you with only 5 tips, another tip I can give you is to use Seachem Purigen in your tanks. Purigen is an absorbing chemical that you throw in the filtration chamber of your aquarium. And what it does is it takes the tannins out of the water and instantly clears up your water. Having clear water is crucial to having a crisp, clean, elevated, professional looking aquascape. Now you can find Purigen by simply searching for it on Amazon, but I'll leave a link in the description below so that you don't have to worry about that and it'll take you directly to it. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, there are way more tips and tricks on how to elevate your aquascape and make it just that much better. So let me know in the comments below if you want to see a part 2 to this video. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.